Good afternoon, everyone. We are now starting Umpukan sa Nayon. Okay, good afternoon. I'm Laya Bukiren. I'm the Deputy Director of the Nayong Pilipino Foundation. We would like to have more urban parks that the public can enjoy, accessible to all. And so we sincerely hope that you feel the same. We hope you will help us amplify this advocacy. We all know that parks and gardens have been considered as spaces for peace, healing, where we can learn about nature and participate in conservation efforts. So in the midst of a metropolitan region, parks provide the benefits of nature to our physical, emotional, and mental health. And the pandemic made us realize the need for more open spaces. We are gathered here today to seek recommendations for the Nayong Pilipino Cultural Park and Creative Hub in the new Seaside Road in Entertainment City, Parañaque. So last October 2019, the national government approved the development of the Nayong Pilipino Cultural Park and Creative Hub. And it was only recently, this January, when we announced the vision for the NPF Park, which is to be the home of permanent and temporary exhibitions, maybe some performances, multimedia content, and other activities that would highlight various facets of the country's natural and cultural heritage. The site is the property of the Nayong Pilipino Foundation, and it was identified with high cultural, historical, heritage, and ecotourism values because of its proximity to the Las Piñas Parañaque Critical Habitat and Ecotourism Area, or the La Papachea. So the NPF then started a series of multi-sectoral consultations, and we call this Umpukan sa Nayon, translated as community gathering. So it is not just for the physical development of the park, but also for conceptualizing our programs that we must carefully consider as part of the design process. However, an enhanced community quarantine was declared in March 2020 due to the rising number of COVID-19 positive cases in the Philippines. So today, a portion of the property has been designated by the Interagency Task Force on Emerging Infectious Diseases as a quarantine facility for asymptomatic patients. Just a portion of it. So we are showing you now the initial designs, the initial conceptual designs that we have, and also how an artist like Daniel Ferrando of Ang Inc. imagined it as a space for the public to access, for children to enjoy, for future generations to enjoy. So while the Nayong Pilipino Foundation Cultural Park and Creative Hub was initially planned and designed for a different purpose, we still remain true to our mandate, and we want to provide a place for healing for the people and the preservation of our heritage. So while we are going through this crisis right now, it's actually an opportunity for us to plan and to consult various sectors in the design of the park and to integrate it so that it can be a space for citizen-led biodiversity conservation. So this afternoon, we want to ask our panelists and attendees some questions that our moderator will share later. Some of these questions have to do with the importance of urban parks and how we can start transforming spaces into platforms for biodiversity conservation. What policies must be considered and implemented to make sure that the public can have more parks. And last but not the least, how should the Nayong Pilipino Foundation property in Entertainment City, Parañaque be transformed as a platform for citizen-led biodiversity conservation? These are just some of the main questions we want to ask later. So before we begin, may I just introduce our Executive Director, Attorney Kay Malilong Isberto, to share a few words.
Good afternoon. Thank you for spending your Saturday with us to help us figure out what a real Nayong Pilipino should be. So Nayong Pilipino was created in 1972, and by its name, it's supposed to be a Filipino village. What does that mean in 2020, and what do we want it to mean moving forward when we prepare this space as a heritage for the children of the future? So this afternoon, we would like to solicit your ideas on how to help Nayong Pilipino live up to its name and create programs that will really involve the community and allow them meaningful participation. So welcome and thanks for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you for that, Attorney Kay. Can we have a few words from our partner, Philippine Parks and Biodiversity?
Right. Um, yeah, hello everyone. Isang makakalikasang hapon. Pasensya na umulan ng malakas dito. So, my name is Mark and I am the Youth Champions Lead of the Philippine Parks and Biodiversity. And on behalf of the Philippine Parks and Biodiversity, we are very thrilled and honored to be working alongside with the Nayong Pilipino in this project since because our mission is really centered on conservation and the sustainable development of the park. And we need more conversation and consultation like this on urban parks, to rally support and the collective action from everyone, especially the civil society groups. And we believe that this begins now. So looking forward to the discussion and also to moderate.
All right, thank you for that, Mark. So I'm sure all the attendees here are really excited about having more conservation conversations. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our one of our speakers. He's Robbie Sereno. He has a university training extension specialist, and he served as course coordinator, developer, speaker, facilitator, and organizing committee member of local and international training courses on social forestry, forest conservation, parks and protected areas management, biodiversity conservation, project management, conservation education, and information. Director Robbie also provided technical expertise and outreach services to the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, European Union National Integrated Protected Areas Program, United Nations Environment Program, North Luzon Growth Commission, and many others. Director Sereno graduated with a BS Forestry in UP Los Baños and took his master's in rural development also at UPLB, and attended his postgraduate studies in natural resources at the University of New England and in tropical environment studies and geography at the James Cook University in Australia. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce Director Robbie Sereno of the Training Center for Tropical Resources and Ecosystem Sustainability, or TREES.
Hi everyone. Thank you very much and mabuhay. Thanks to Nayong Pilipino and Philippine Parks and Biodiversity and other organizers for the invitation and for making this event possible. Like you, I'm so excited. And I believe the forthcoming Nayong Filipino Park is so timely and necessary, as mentioned earlier, now that we have this pandemic. Every day while on quarantine, we have realized that we need more open spaces, di ba? Nearby our residences, even in the middle of the urban jungle.
Thank you for that, Director Sereno. The next speaker I'd like to introduce is Michael Lu. He is a businessman and a recreational bird watcher. He is one of the founding members of the Wild Bird Club of the Philippines and is the current president of the club. The club assists the DENR in an annual Asian waterbird census. The club also partnered with the Department of Tourism to promote bird watching and work with various cities to conduct the Philippine Bird Festival to educate school children on the diversity of birds in the country. And he is also one of the founding members of the Asian Bird Fair and served as one of the executive committee members. So I'm sure we're very excited to hear his insights for this afternoon. I'd like to introduce again Mike Lu, president of the Wild Bird Club of the Philippines.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm really excited to be part of this panel discussion, mainly because we have been bird watching in this particular site way back before all this development happened, and it is one of the most diverse in terms of ecosystems. So there's a lot of bird species which have disappeared from the site. But even way back then, as a kid, I used to go to Pasay every weekend to visit my grandparents, and naabutan ko yung reclamation, how the sea disappeared and became land. And so I was thinking, like, how can we help right now? How can we restore even a little bit of that to bring back the wildlife, to bring back more open spaces to everyone? Thank you.
Thank you for that, Mike. Just to put things into context, Mike Clue and his team, the Wild Bird Club of the Philippines, recently visited the site around the last week of September. And so they observed the area, and happily they found around 25 bird species nearby. So thank you for that again. And last but not the least, I'd like to introduce Boboy Costas, founder of Grassroots Travel. Boboy organized the Boho Aluginsan Ecotourism Association in Cebu and developed the Aluginsan River Ecocultural Tour, which turned fishermen and their families into community tourism champions and won 5 global awards in ecotourism. He has trained local communities, local government units, private companies, resorts, hotels, tour operators on ecotourism and sustainable tourism strategies. He sits at the board of directors of ecotourism for Eco Explorations and the Bangkok-based Asian Ecotourism Network. The Department of Tourism awarded him the Philippine National Tourism Award, or Kalakbay, in 2003. In 2015, the University of San Carlos awarded him the Most Outstanding Alumnus in the field of community service. He was a University of California, Berkeley Bears Environment Leadership Fellow in 2016. The same year, he was recognized by Philippine Airlines as one of the inspiring Filipinos that we have. Ladies and gentlemen, Boboy Costas.
Hi, hello, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Nayong Pilipino, for having me here this afternoon's event. Yes, I started grassroots travel in 2009 with the vision of helping rural communities protect their natural and cultural heritage through sustainable tourism. So my work entails organizing and educating communities to be environmental stewards, train them to become excellent and proud hosts to their communities, and prosper from it and reap the benefits from it. So it's a good opportunity for me to share this afternoon my thoughts on developing communities. I'm not an urban space expert, but I would just like to share my experience, my insights on how to work with communities, especially in the time of pandemic when people are longing or yearning for free spaces, remoteness, air quality, water freshness, etc. No? And they would just like to go out and seek natural spaces, natural destinations. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that, Boboy. Perhaps we can now proceed to the question and answer portion, the main part, the main highlight of Umpukan sa Nayon. So I will now turn you over to our partner, Philippine Parks, led by Mark Laseste. Mark?
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Laya, for that. So greetings again to our participants and to our distinguished panelists. It's such an honor to be the moderator for the second episode of Umpukan sa Nayon series. So itong team natin ngayong hapon about civil society organizations' role in biodiversity conservation. We know that it's not common knowledge pagdating sa contribution and active participation ng mga civil society groups in supporting the initiatives of the government tulad ng promising project ng Nayong Pilipino on urban parks. So in this afternoon, we will look into the lens of how civil society plays a critical role in changing the course of unsustainable system and biodiversity loss into sustainable and transformative practices. So I guess to start the discussion, we know that the benefits of sound and green urban parks are very diverse and wide-ranging. So for our first question to the panelists, what do you think po is the importance of urban parks and how can we start transforming spaces into urban parks? Perhaps we could start with Sir Robbie.
Oh, okay. As mentioned earlier, number one is of course the well-being, health and well-being, social cohesiveness, and we are emphasizing here the importance of conserving biodiversity through parks. And this is so unique because you are conserving biodiversity in an urban environment. How do you do it? Diba? Medyo parang malaking question. But let me contribute by introducing my favorite framework. I call it the 5 A's framework of parks development. The 5 A's refers to attractions, activities, amenities, accommodation, and access. Okay. First is the attractions. The main area can be designed to serve as a showcase and a learning hub for conservation of terrestrial ecosystems and their associated biodiversity. You know, we have so many types of terrestrial ecosystems that we can sample. For example, a forest ecosystem. Philippine endemic and endangered species of plants, trees, shrubs, herbs, grasses, and even lianas, even lianas on trees, including the epiphytes and parasites, can be collected, then planted in an organized and systematic way or manner for presentation to the public while serving as an ex situ. Importante yun, ex situ. Ano? You are conserving the species outside of its natural habitat for biodiversity conservation. Now, for attractions pertaining to marine and aquatic ecosystems, the Las Piñas Parañaque Wetland Park would be the most practical connection. So I believe that's correct. Starting the connection between these two important ecosystems. In there, more introduction of mangrove species should be done to improve vegetation cover, species diversity, habitat composition to better serve as a wildlife sanctuary for birds and other fauna species. Of course, marami tayo dyan no, sa waters. The park can also showcase unique landforms in the country. You remember the old Nayong Pilipino where you can see in 10 minutes the entire Philippines. You can see Mayon Volcano, Cordillera, etc. This time, I suggest it's not more towards the iconic tourist destinations, but this time we can present unique landforms. No? We have so many unique landforms in the Philippines, and I can say one example is the Masungi Cars in Rizal. It's so unique and so close to the country's capital, and yet very few of us can visit. So we can sample those. And the second A is activities. Well, let's invite civil society organizations like local residents, the media, the academe, others to adopt, conceptualize, and even organize activities for visitors. I'm initially thinking of the Philippine Native Plant Society, the Biodiversity Conservation Society, the bird watchers, and the bird photographers groups, sila Mike, to join in these efforts. Student organizations in nearby colleges and universities can be invited to organize their events in the park. So we can have tree nurturing, regular plant walks, birding, butterflies, and other insects watching. And of course, home gardening, activities like edible landscaping. You know, UPLB can help on this, the edible landscaping. And the third A is about accommodation. I suppose accommodation in the park will address the requirements of day visitors only for their learning and leisure activities and events. So we need to have a reception area, pavilion, audiovisual theater, curio shop, and cafes. And of course, shaded areas for daytime activities. And the fourth is about amenities. I mean, support facilities and services that will make visits comfortable, safe, enjoyable, and yes, educational. So tour guiding services should be organized while properly trained and accredited guides. I have an experience in the Makiling Botanic Gardens, which I headed before. 20 years ago, I organized our Corps of Ents, or EENTs, which stands for Educators for Nature-Based Tourism. That was inspired by the talking and walking trees in the film series Lord of the Rings. You remember? Pinanganak na yata kayo nun, Mark, ano? Yung may Lord of the Rings pa. They are UPLB volunteer students that provide tour guiding services while earning for their school needs and food allowance. For bird watching, the group of Mike can provide this service. And the fifth, of course, is access. Okay? Access coming in and going around the park should be provided with well laid out walkways, boardwalks, bike lanes, ramps, even canopy walks if possible. So we have lots of things to do inside, and even the nearby park.
Thank you so much for that, Sir Robbie. And I love your answer, conserving biodiversity through parks, anchored with your 5A's framework, the attraction, activities, accommodation, amenities, and access. So perhaps Sir Mike would like to go next.
Hi, Okay. Can you hear me now? Okay. Now. Yeah, like Doc Robbie said, gave us a lot of ideas on what to do. Uh, like him, I grew up with the old Nayong Pilipino, where you had all these artifacts and buildings that showcase at different parts of the Philippines. Maybe now we could just have structures where all the exhibits are digital. You don't have need the physical buildings or artifacts. So you create a smaller carbon footprint and then allocate more areas for green spaces using native plants and native trees. Uh, in the site itself, you cannot plant too much because it's a coastal area, and the beach, the estuary is gone. It's all cemented right now. So what we can do is make a grassland ecosystem and a beach forest ecosystem. Even this uh, uh, Pinoys, we usually look at grasslands as talahib lang yan or masukal lang yan. Kailangan sunugin, putulin. We do not realize that it's a whole ecosystem in itself. There are bird life, animal, insect life that only depends on grass, that can only survive on grasslands. And also beach forests, we go beyond mangroves. A lot of people do not know that there are salt tolerant trees and salt tolerant grass. We could actually come up with an exhibit like that and attract the wildlife back to this Nayong Pilipino that we're planning to.
Thank you for that, Sir Mike. Sir Boboy.
Yeah, since Nayong Filipino is a showcase of what a Philippine village is, I'll speak from my experience on working with communities, no, on especially on community-led biodiversity conservation. So what I suggest, these are my thoughts, no. First is there has to have a community that Nayong Filipino Foundation should work with, and I understand this will be the communities along the Parañaque area, along that area, Parañaque local government, and maybe along that area of the Manila Bay local government, and even communities. And then maybe we can start with community work, community organizing, and then together with that, we'll Nayong Filipino will capacity building programs for the communities. And what I'm actually thinking is on creating a network of what you call this ordinary citizen, citizen scientists who will experience during the course of the organizing process, who will experience transformative learning. No? So when they're now transformed and educated, they will help increase the public visibility, the public reach, and who knows, they might even help source out funds from other non-government organizations or other funding institutions, and they can also help raise local and government awareness. No? And of course, because this is grassroots level, they can even help prevent extinction because they will be the first to detect, let's say, the absence of a particular bird, which they have been like a regular visitor in a particular area for a long time, and it's already gone. In my community work, we usually train citizen scientists through a lot of what you call these activities. We can even, like for example, bird inventories. No, what I usually do, for example, what I did about 6 months ago in Leyte, we have a project at the Mahagna Volcano Natural Park. It's one of the smallest protected areas in the country. We trained a group of local residents in a particular village residing within the fringes of the national park. We trained them on bird inventory. But first, you have to train them on bird anatomy and the bird physiology, etc. Before they go out in the field and help the ornithology or the birders identify the birds. And we also do, in my projects in the coastal area, we usually train them on mangrove ecology, which is part of the whole mangrove ecotourism module. So we they help us identify the species of mangroves found in the area. So in this case, once the community knows what their assets are, they will learn to love it, and they will learn to. And if they love these assets, they will learn to protect it. No, so I guess that's one. And of course, together with the other government agencies, Nayong Pilipino Foundation can probably do environmental sensitive area studies to determine which areas are in great need of protection. So Nayong Pilipino Foundation can probably partner with local governments, as I've mentioned, in Parañaque or in the Manila Bay areas to initiate greening initiatives. But again, we need to have the political will here. No? And last but not the least, as what Dr. Sereno said, go into urban agriculture, with emphasis. For me, I have a strong bias on agroecology because most city dwellers don't know where their food comes from. No? So it's the traceability, or how much waste or how much environmental damage is associated with the production and even transportation of the food to the city from the source. So I think these are some of my thoughts on how Nayong Pilipino can go about, creating that cultural park creative hub.
Thank you, Sir Boboy. Thank you so much to our panelists for all of your answers. It is enlightening, to hear your ideas and opportunities to be able to design the future Nayong Filipino side. And like what Sir Robbie said, urban park itself empower our well-being, and also, we are promoting biodiversity conservation already through parks, and also how Sir Mike and Sir Boboy highlights about creating different communities and considering the grassland and beach forest ecosystem. So now, having said this, now let's go to connecting it to policy, because we know at the end of the day, the influence of policy is really a powerful tool to effect change and to shape the future agenda of our urban parks. So for our second question to the panelists, what policies do you think we need to consider and implement to make way for urban parks? Anyone can start?
I can start. Yeah. Okay. Of course, we know that urban parks are delineated open spaces in cities, properly zoned, and even legally provided by local and national authorities. They must be legally provided. Otherwise, wala lang, no? Mawawala lang yan. Their presence or location should be respected and recognized, especially in the comprehensive land use plans and the zoning ordinances. Kasi pag wala yung ganyong structure, more so, this legal framework should reiterate importance and benefits, lalo na yung importance that residents get from this park in terms of human health and well-being, cooling, the air quality, the carbon sequestration, functions, stormwater regulation, etc. Social, cultural, historical importance. Kailangan emphasize natin yan, no? Aesthetic, educational, and of course, tourist attraction. And yes, for harboring biodiversity, ito, kailangan ito, no? Harboring biodiversity. And for the last function I mentioned, this can serve as an ex situ nga, sabi ko nga, for plant and animal species that are unique or endemic to the country. Yeah, sabi ni Mark kanina, may mga endemic tayong grasses, shrubs, or mga coastal plants and trees. We can plant the nilad and Manila palm, lalo na, then add Quiapo in funds for the people of Manila to understand the etymology of their birthplace. Visitors from Quezon City would find out that the origin of the names of their districts came from plants like Kamuning, Kamias, Diliman, Santol, Manga, Sambong, Tamalasamno, etc., etc. Kasi kailangan yung connect, personal connect doon sa nandoon sa park.
Thank you, Sir Robbie. Sir Boboy, would you like to go next?
Well, I think Dr. Sereno has said it all, but I'm just curious if, in terms of what policymakers can ensure that there are urban parks, for the public. I'm not sure if there has already a law on landscaping, because I'm sure when you talk about urban parks, especially when you talk about malls in urban areas offering oases to shoppers, I noticed that more plants of this type are what you call this exotic, no? So I'm really wondering if we can probably add something on requiring urban spaces or urban oases, green spaces in the city to plant what you call this indigenous and go into xeriscaping or what you call it using drought resistant and low maintenance vegetation or something. So maybe maybe we can do something like that. No, enforce the implementation of a regulation that really compels developers to use drought resistant and endemic plants.
Thank you for that, Sir Bowie. Sir Mike? I think you're muted, Sir Mike.
Okay.
There you go.
Oh, I've been a bird watcher for 18 years, and we have partnered with the DNR for that long. I don't know about policies because it seems that we have so many laws and we're not even following them. Uh, with regard to urban areas, I don't think people are even aware that we need green spaces. I haven't seen any LGU who has a clear policy on maintaining or creating green spaces. And even if they do, it's all for show. It's not well thought of. They don't they don't hire good consultants. Sorry, but I feel it's all very self-serving. Like maybe just the level of awareness on what to do is not there yet in the Philippines. Because if you go, I've been around to so many countries, even our neighboring countries, their urban parks are way, way beyond our standards. Uh, there are, for example, we keep on destroying wetland habitats or by reclaiming. And well-meaning people think that by planting mangroves, we are restoring the habitat, that they planted too many mangroves, destroying the mudflats instead. So parang there's just no uh, enough awareness or educational background. We just do what we want. There's no policy. I don't know. I don't know what will happen to our country. Already the plans for reclamation of the whole Manila Bay from Cavite all the way to Bataan is there. The master plan is there. Uh, this area where Nayong Pilipino is used to have mangroves. When we went, we were probably too young and too naive when we started the club. That one day we arrived at the site, all the mangroves were gone and buried under 12 feet of soil. They did not cut down the mangroves, they just buried it because our laws forbade us to cut mangroves. So they just killed them, tapos. Now they're building a whole airport in Bulacan where endangered and threatened species are of migratory water birds can be found, and their environmental impact assessment they just hired consultants who have no knowledge of birds and just say, oh, these are all common birds. Okay lang, it's okay to develop the place. So I don't know what will happen. I hope Nayong Pilipino will be a model project for other LGUs. So I'm really hoping that we can work closely with Dr. Bokiren. Thank you.
Thank you,
Attorney
Sir Mark.
Malilong.
Well, yes, this is the reason why we would like people who know. Actually, what I wanted done was research on the historical evolution of that site, because I want to know if what we have uh, actually have real islands under it. Because I think that reclamation, parang there used to be islands in that area, and then they made it like one whole strip of land. So we asked, how much soil do we need to put to be able to grow anything? Because if originally that place was the sea, then, you know, like the best scenario would have been no reclamation would have happened and we took care of our ecosystem. But we can't, like, I don't know, maybe only Mother Nature can reverse that. So I'm thinking the second best would be make that a space where we that can be an homage to that ecosystem that we destroyed. So maybe that's going to be like a warning to everyone else who still have their ecosystems intact. Like, don't do that. Don't destroy it, because otherwise you'll have to spend a lot of money to restore it. So while you have it, take care of it. But this is what you need to do if you want to restore. So in a way, perhaps the Nayong Pilipino park can be an exercise in ecosystem restoration. Because that's pretty much a degraded ecosystem. Uh, I mean, let's just be honest about it. And, you know, like the old Nayon was 47 square meters, and now, 47 hectares, sorry. And now we only have 15. So I guess it also shows the priority that parks have been given in the past decades. And that has to stop. Like, we already know that we need more green and open spaces. Perhaps when they shut down parks in the 90s and early 2000s, and they didn't know that, or it wasn't obvious. What I noticed is that in a lot of environmental strategies, there's usually one line about urban parks, but nothing like how do you intend to implement that? And we want Nayon to be a model for that. So if we succeed here, where it's already degraded, then we give people a chance to do better. Where it's not degraded, how to take care of it. If it's degraded, how to restore it. So yeah, that's the kind of space we want to build.
Uh,
Thank you, Attorney Kay. Perhaps, Sir Robbie, would you like to add up? Or and Sir Boboy?
yes, yeah,
Go ahead po.
Mr. Mike, go ahead.
Ah, I have a question lang. What happened to the old Nayong Pilipino? Because it was started in the 70s. All the trees are big and mature already. Tapos, what happened? We just abandoned it?
They said that we need an airport. So they took 15 hectares. And then around 2012, Pinoy said, you don't need your land. So it just took Nayon's land without giving us any money. And that's one of the problems of Nayon. Our operations are funded by rent. So if our land is taken away from us, we have no rent income coming. So that's the reason why we had to lease out 5.4 hectares so that we can build the park and continue our operations. So Pinoy just said, Nayon, you don't need the land. We're taking it in. It was given to another GOCC.
But they
Yeah,
didn't
that's what happened.
develop it also. It's nakatiwangwang lang, di ba?
I don't know. I think they're gonna make it part of the airport or like storage or something. We don't know.
Okay.
Yeah. Can I say something in relation to Attorney Kay's comment on like how parks have just become just like an afterthought no, in development? What I've noticed in the Philippines is that when you say parks or municipal parks, ano siya, yung parang space in front of the municipio where during fiestas, people will converge and make it into one peryahan, one big peryahan, and uh, ordinary days they just become parking lots for fire trucks and ambulances, etc. So I think this has to change this concept of a park in municipalities in the Philippines, and maybe Nayong Filipino can change that thinking.
Thank you, Sir Boboy. Sir Robbie?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So sad, no? Yung nangyari din sa lumang Ngayong Pilipino. And Di ba kinopy pa yan ng Jakarta? Sa Jakarta, nandun lang sa susunod and they were inspired by that Nayong Pilipino, yung Jakarta village. Anyway, nangyari na yun. And this time, sabi ko nga kanina earlier, yung modern concept kasi ng park is not just an open space. Yung modern concept now is hindi lamang yung people doing their usual leisure, pero meron din tayong kasamang mga na ibang habitats, and the habitats, and then yung plants and birds, yun yung mga bago nating concept ng park and open space. And sila tao lang may karapatang mag-leisure during Sundays. So yun yung acceptance na na even yung mga wildlife ay kasama rin natin. And the more they get close to people, so that's the concept ng open space. Dahil it's a small area, so we have to be strategic. Ano lang yung that can hard hit yung reality natin, tapos can really satisfy yung objectives. Ano ba talaga yung objective nitong several hectares nito? Pahingahan ng mga nagkakasino o what? Hindi naman siguro.
All right. Sorry.
Now, the concept is a cultural park and creative hub. So we were thinking, we want it to be a space where you can be at your most creative because you're connected with nature. And so the programming is a very important thing. So if you can think of an SSF, let's say, if there's rice and then you have like a community meal, for example, where everybody gets the rice meal. Think of it as like the rice mill for the creative industries. That's what we want to do. Like we want to be the space for the cultural and creative industries. But at the same time, it has to be very respectful of the environment. And this is why we think that the wildlife conservation has to be mainstreamed in its design. So that's the vision we have for Nayong Pilipino.
So can I add something? Yeah, as what Attorney Kay said, the Nayong Filipino village or the creative hub is only the milieu, right? It's only the platform for creativity of the communities. So I suggest maybe there has to have like a cultural mapping on what really is the sense of place, the heritage, the story of the area, and that becomes the milieu of what the creative ingredients will be put into, so that it becomes one creative hub. So maybe a cultural mapping, or the data gathering stories, or from local communities.
All right, thank you, Sir Boboy. So I guess
that makes sense, no?
Yeah. So at this moment, I can feel the frustration, and I think this is also the frustration of everyone and the many Filipinos. That's why it's also a good thing that we are having this kind of consultation, because the Nayong Pilipino, they'd like to revive the new Nayong Filipino through this project, and we definitely need the support of everyone. And I also think that we have enough policies that can protect our biodiversity, our green spaces, or urban parks. But sometimes, we can all agree that sometimes we lack reinforcement. Sometimes people are not aware of it. Sometimes it's not even well thought. But I guess this is also a call to action to review the existing policies that we have. And then we invite again the leaders of the civil society organizations to share their opinion on how we can better serve and design a sustainable urban parks. So I guess I'll proceed now with our third question, third and last, I guess. So, with the ultimate goal of Nayong Philippines to create a citizen-led biodiversity conservation with urban forests and some learning gardens of this future urban park. And, given this pandemic, and also, with limited physical mobility, and also in observance of the bayanihan to heal as one act, what concrete steps po kaya do you think the Nayong Pilipino Foundation take to start in pursuing these goals? Anyone would like to start po?
Yeah, maybe we can start it with like education and promotion through social media, because I mean, it's really hard not these days to come face-to-face, interaction with local communities and with all the stakeholders so that this creative hub will be realized. So I guess it's just have to be at the start, at the outset, education and promotion through social media, no? And maybe orientation communities about the project through social media. And because you can do something, no? I mean, in a larger scale, in a mass scale, if you still have the pandemic or the virus hovering around us. So I said education and maybe promotion of the project has to start.
Thank you, Sir Boboy. I'd love that, especially in this digital age and in this pandemic talaga maraming online. And, this is also, I think, the most feasible, possible, and most impactful way to raise awareness on these causes while we're building the project, where we're working on the planning and etc. So,
Yes. I agree, agree 100% or 1000%. These webinars and online learning programs are really commendable. So thank you very much for this. That should be complemented with multimedia campaigns, to broadcast, radios, TVs, the print media, school visits when they open, and primarily activities, mga activities, sports activities. Let's invite every Saturday, Sundays. Yun yung start ng build up ng support para sa ganung klaseng campaign. So yun, start natin. Sana pagkatapos ng pandemic, arangkada na kagad tayo sa mga ganyong educational activities.
thank you, Sir Robbie. Sir Mike?
Medyo mahirap as educational as possible. For me, if we do this successfully, it will be a model project for other cities to follow. Because I don't see anything like this in the Philippines yet, which when you go abroad, and there are so many examples. Parang inggit na inggit ako every time when I go bird watching, even in Hong Kong, even in Taiwan.
Pinuntahan natin, Mike, Taiwan.
Families bring, di ba? The families bring their children. You don't. I'll relate from my experience. In the Philippines, we organize bird festivals, and we have to work with the LGUs for them to bring in students. In contrast, in Taipei, they cannot go to the schools because the schools have their rigid programs. They cannot go on field trips. So, but during their bird festivals, which is held on Saturday and Sundays, their visitors go up to like 10,000 to 20,000. And these are all families bringing in their kids. It's the parents bringing their kids. I think if I do it in Manila, no one will come. But we're forcing the mayors to bring the school children to our festivals. But in Taiwan, it's the other way around. Diba? Ang taas ng awareness ng mga neighbors natin in contrast to us here in the Philippines.
Napansin ko, Mike, napansin ko when we were there, what year was that? When we joined that bird festival, bulk doon sa ating audience noon, yung mga pumunta, ay teachers.
Yes.
Yeah, and the bulk of their bird watchers were teachers. And remember, after that bird watching festival, they came over. Wating sila sa Philippines. In fact, na-remember ko yung mga mukha ng iba sa kanila. So, nandun yung power ng education. Nandun yung power ng convincing the teachers. Kasi sila yung mga teachers yung maghahakot ng ating mga potential visitors.
Yeah. I'd just like to clarify. So Nayon originally had 2 billion from TIEZA to build this park. And then by this time, we should have been working on the master planning already. Except that 2 billion went to COVID response. The development model would have been PPP, hybrid PPP, where 2 billion would be the government contribution apart from the land to build that park. Initially, we were looking at 30% of the area for allowed development for the private partner so that they can recover costs, because the rest of it, how do you really make money, right? Because we wanted it to be free, like more access for the public. The other thing is, and this is really where Nayong Pilipino needs your help. Everywhere, every time there's a Congress hearing, there's always at least one congressman telling me, give up your land because that's very expensive. Go na lang to Pampanga or somewhere. And I thought, like, you're super missing the point. Land, you can't build a park because you don't have land. You have land that's been set aside for a park, and then you still want us to give it up. It's very easy to destroy Nayong Pilipino. Over the years, so many presidents have wanted to abolish it. So it's been, like, try to kill it because get the land, because that land's very expensive. We're told that the assessed value alone is already over 1 billion pesos. So that's only assessed value. The market value is so much more. So this is why Nayong Pilipino really wants the community to be able to say that you can't take that for any other building, because what we need right now as a public good and as a human right are more green and open spaces. So this is why we need to engage you. Perhaps you would think, okay, so why are you even saying that you're part of government? It's very hard. So Nayon is a GOCC, always on the block for being abolished. And that land, if you're not there, it's so easy for people who just want money to use that land for something else. So I guess you're aware of the scandal that happened where they wanted to build like a casino there. So we're back pushing it to being a park. The cabinet and President Duterte have said that there's no casino that's going to be built there. It's going to be a park. Then the pandemic happened. Then we don't know what the next president will do. So that's really the reality of that space. It's expensive land. And I don't know. So that's why we need champions to say that you can't take that land away from us because we don't have enough urban parks in the city.
Do you mean the budget from TIEZA is gone already?
Yes, it was taken as part of COVID response. We would have started with master planning this year, and we already included in the principles that it should mainstream wildlife conservation, and that everything used in building it should comply with, let's say, good environmental practices. So TIEZA told us that it's suspended. As soon as the money is available again, we can continue. But considering that TIEZA gets its funds from travel tax, we don't really know when that's going to happen. So I guess that's our research question. In the meantime, where we don't have that 2 billion, what can we do to make sure that that land really becomes a park and doesn't get taken away again to be turned into a casino or something else?
Yeah. You have to
All right.
involve the communities, because the communities are voters.
What communities?
I mean, the communities along that area, maybe Parañaque or Manila Bay area, or the surrounding, Manila Bay.
The thing is,
Communities
before the Parañaque LGU wanted it to be a casino because the share they get from casino revenues is high. So who would want a park? Everybody just wants money. So we have to change that mindset, and I think that's the work that's cut out for civil society working with Nayon. Otherwise, I'm always told that land's so expensive. Here, get money na lang. Then you can buy 50 hectares of land somewhere. Then you're not stuck with 15 hectares, which I think misses the point completely.
Yeah. Correct.
All right. So thank you so much, everyone, for that. But we have to move on with our question. But before I move on to one last question, Sir Mike, is it possible, to organize a eco-tour social distancing bird watching given this pandemic? Is that possible?
Uh, I think we have to prepare the area first. Because my friend made use a drone,
Mm.
and I saw na it's malaki pa pala. When we went there, it just rained, so it was very muddy. We couldn't explore the whole area, and then there's a lot of places which are overgrown. Actually, I was thinking that we just prepare the trails. We have to cut down some of the grass so that there would be access and it will be easier for bird watching. But maybe, but then there are not that many bird watchers in the Philippines. But if you can actually include some biking trails, there are so many bikers there. Grabe, when I went there, it's so difficult to drive. People were biking until across because situated in front of Okada, right? And all the bikers were on the side of Nayong Pilipino resting. They're all resting by the sidewalk, taking their selfies, taking pictures of Okada. If we can attract them inside Nayong Pilipino, so by the time someone wants to take that land away, we will have so many other stakeholders who will be on our side.
Yeah.
But we have to prepare the place. It's maputik when it rains and there are no trails. If we can work with you on that if you want.
All right. Thank you, Sir Mike. Looking forward on that project. So siguro na to at least to have this light question. Siguro very short lang kasi this was also our panelists, very short lang po, no. So what is your dream or vision for the future Nayong Filipino cultural site and creative hub? Like what do you want to see and how do you want Filipino people to feel when they pass through it years from now? Sir Robbie?
Oh, I dream of a small spot in Manila, in Parañaque, where you can be proud of being a Filipino. Being a Filipino, where you are proud of the plants, you are proud of plants and animals and the open space that we are enjoying. So I dream of maybe um, in one small portion before you board for your destination, you can bring your guests, bring your visitors, bring your families, so that they got to enjoy the Philippine biodiversity, the Philippine environment, and different kinds of landforms and different ecosystems in small patches. So and that dream that we can pass on to the next generation.
Thank you for that, Sir Robbie. Sir Boboy?
Yeah. I envision Nayong Filipino to be like a nature meets culture hub. Like it's where creative tourism will flourish. Creative tourism is not yet really developed in the Philippines, but it's a good venue for this creative tourism where you have the old heritage meets the innovation or the fresh and vibrant um, ideas in a natural setting, where you have trees, you have different ecosystems, or you have the birds, you have you know in a natural setting. So it's creativity plus nature plus culture.
Thank you, Sir Boboy. Sir
Uh, I think a lot of us there's still so much that we have to discover within ourselves, our local flora and fauna. Uh, to make it I want the new Nayong Filipino to be an educational experience. It will be an attraction, but then you don't just go there to relax. You learn something every time you go there.
Thank you, Sir Mike. I think I'd also like to invite Attorney Kate to share her personal dream for the Nayong Filipino.
I'm really happy that you articulated the things that we want to have. So last year in December, we met with indigenous peoples from Mount Kitanglad. And then we asked them, what do you want to see in a space that's supposed to celebrate Philippine culture? and their metaphors are different. So they said, well, you have to show the different spirits or elements. So like you need to have representations for rocks, for trees, for water elements. And I think that's just the language that they speak with. So we talk about landforms and different kinds of ecosystems. So maybe what there's always that question, what is at the heart of every Filipino? I guess we are a people that's really connected to nature. And I think the pandemic has made us realize that even more, just how much we need it. We saw people were alarmed when they saw the people crowding around that lawn outside CCP. Then we realized
Yeah.
there's really such a dearth of green and open spaces, and people are desperate. So imagine if we're able to use all that 15 hectares, then we don't have to crowd. Then we have a bigger place and we have another space where we can do that. I'm really hoping that we're able to build this soon. We're able to secure that area so that it doesn't get turned into a casino.
All right, thank you, Attorney Kay. So I guess we'll just extend a few minutes to entertain some questions here. And also I'm reading the chat box. Thank you guys for your substantial comments. We're taking notes of that. So siguro, okay, let's entertain question from Xavier. Would the fact that the site is reclaimed land affect what trees can and should be planted? So anyone from the panelists can answer.
That's why we can only plant beech forest trees there.
Mm.
We cannot plant pine trees or big forest dipterocarps. They won't survive there.
Okay. Thank
Of
you,
course,
Sir Mike.
of course, pwede rin naman yung pwede rin naman yung containerized, nasa containers yung mga malalaking yon, pero it has to be trimmed very well. They won't grow as much kasi nasa mga containers. You can maybe sample some unique trees in the Philippines. Nung nasa Singapore Botanic Gardens ako, they asked me if they can buy one tree from Mount Makiling, that big, and that's 10 meters. What? Well, sabi niya, it's not possible. It's not impossible. We have the money. We can bring in a tree from the Philippines. Mga ganong, because of the containerized. Ano lang naman to, of course, you won't expect them to bear good fruits or even flowers because wala sila sa kanilang natural habitat. But that's possible.
Thank you, Sir Robbie. Okay, so I guess next question. So in our country, is there really a mapping being done by the national government to lessen, if not totally eradicate, the conversion of agricultural lands, introduction of invasive species, pests that brought diseases, knowing threats differ from one ecosystem to another?
Marami na tayong maps, and the entire Philippines has been mapped by NAMRIA and even yung mga islands natin. Ang kailangan talagang desisyonan natin, ang very immediate is for 19 years, the Land Use Act hindi pa rin ina-actionan niya. 1987 pa yan drafted. Nasa Congress pa rin until now. With a Land Use Act, the national government can really determine which land will become a permanent reservation, which land should be for cities, for agriculture, etc., etc. Yun yung must. So, tinatanong mo is yung national action. Ano kailangan?
Thank you, Sir Robbie. Sir Mike, Sir Baboy, would you like to add or? Okay. So I guess one last question to entertain, as also the Youth Champions Lead of the Philippine Parks and Biodiversity, there's one question here, like what would be the role of the youth in this urban parks advocacy? How can the youth be part of this conversation?
We're working on our Makanayon youth cultural leadership program. So we're happy that there are some groups wanting to reach out to us and help us. Sir Mike, Sir Boboy, Sir Robbie, perhaps you can help us with create this program. I guess it has to be concerted action with clear outputs and outcomes. So I guess that's what we can do in the next few months. Form that youth group and then have them lead these efforts.
All right, I think that answers the question. Thank you so much, Attorney Kay. So please do follow the Facebook page of Nayong Pilipino Foundation so you guys are posted with the opportunities on this. Okay, so I think that's it. I'd like to thank our distinguished panelists, Sir Robbie, Sir Boboy, Sir Mike, for your valuable insights. I myself learned a lot from this, and I'm sure also the participants are. And I hope this discussion steers love in your heart for the urban parks. You know, this conversation is really centered on solution building, and we're not just wallowing on the barriers. Now, and this is the high time that all sectors, including all the people here in the Zoom, are all actors in helping to achieve this mission. So I'd also like to mention that the conversation that we have, this highlights how the civil society groups is really a good partner to the government when it comes to mobilizing resources, when it comes to lobbying policies as well, and also shaping the public opinion in this development project of the Nayong Pilipino Foundation. Sometimes we also have to recognize and acknowledge that part of the solution lies in the NGO's knowledge, expertise, and experience. And yes, we need your support. We need to rally everyone's attention to be able to support this project. And I'm sure that that the contributions from our panelists this afternoon will definitely add up and help the existing plans of the Nayong Pilipino. And we can't wait to come this to fruition kasi we believe that Nayong Pilipino Foundation has this strong commitment to preserving not only the natural and cultural heritage, but as well as promoting green spaces and sustainable tourism. So thank you again to our panelists and to our participants for your active participation. So I now give back the floor to Ms. Laya for the closing remarks.
Thank you, Mark. I'd like to thank everyone for attending this second episode of the Umpukan sa Nayon session. So definitely this is not the last conservation conversation that we're having. We would like to invite everyone rather, to please attend the session later at 5 p.m. The episode 3 will have leaders from international institutions, and we promise we can send certificates to those who complete all 3 episodes. We would also like to improve our Umpukan sessions, so we encourage everyone to evaluate us using the questionnaire we send you and communicate to us your suggestions. So the Nayong Pilipino Foundation will definitely consolidate all the recommendations of our experts this afternoon. Yes to grasslands and beach trees, definitely. Yes to the right trees. And yes to making a Nayon a place for other species and not just people. We are also learning many valuable insights from attendees, and these we will definitely include in the drawing board. We want more sustainable designs and less carbon emissions, definitely. We want designs that will rethink the very notion of public spaces, and yes to plans that will be continued and implemented beyond one's term. And definitely we want more champions, both young and young at heart. So we look forward to public support. We look forward to have a bayanihan for Nayong Pilipino, yes to more open and green spaces. We would definitely want to have more partners for civil society organizations to get you involved in this space claiming initiative. So this will be a park for us all, a park for the Filipino public, and we want more allies in this clamor. We hope this is just the beginning. Thank you everyone for attending. Have a great day. We hope you can join us still for the 5 p.m. session. Thank you.